Hey Exiles, welcome back. Here with another video for you, and this time I'm going to bring out a build that I had been thinking about for a while, and it's taken a long time for me to put it together, but I've been super busy and all that, despite this league being amazing. I started that with the Fulcrum Chieftain, of course, and even though I didn't really want to do a lot of magic finding this league because I did so much last league, it's just been so good, it's been impossible not to. So finally I've gotten around to putting this together, and I hope you like it, right? So what we're looking at here is Elementalist with Bodyswap, okay? So main idea is Bodyswap a sacrifice with raised specters, these perfect dark marionettes, which will, every second that they have been dead for, they'll re-summon themselves after a second, right? So I can 1, 2, 3, pop all of them, and they come right back, right? Very quick, very fast uptime, right? Bodyswap a sacrifice, it explodes one of your minions, dealing a third of their maximum HP as damage. It also has a very large AoE, right? I think my AoE right now is like 4 meters, right? So it's huge. Really nice for like clearing legions, clearing big packs in general. It also has pretty insane damage. So let's take a look at what our damage looks like and how we are getting it. I'll pull up POV. Right. So over to Bodyswap Sacrifice. All right. So this is showing 25 million ignite DPS and 32 mil dot, right? The initial hit is not insignificant at nearly 3 million, but you know, this combined DPS is a little bit of a lie because we're not really casting that quickly. It's usually pop one, run away, pop one, let the ignite take care of it, run away. So pretty close to dot cap, right? It's very good. How do we calculate this in POB, right? Well, we have to go to our raised specter. Now that you hit manage specters, we're using a risen Val Fanatic because there is no perfect dark marionette coded in the game yet. So if you look at these specters, they all have different life modifiers, life multipliers, and in po.db the marionette shows as 2.88 life multiplier. So the Risen Battle Fanatic has the same, and that's why we're using it. It's just a stand-in. It should be identical to the actual numbers, right? So this total life is 441,000 and change. I multiply that by 0.31 because our Bodyswap, my Bodyswap, is doing 31% of the minion's maximum life as extra damage, and that comes out to this down here. If you put in this line of this text right here, it'll add this fire damage, and you'll get the proper calculation when you go over to Bodyswap a Sacrifice and go to self-explosion, right? Because there's 2 explosions. There's a minion explosion and there's a self-explosion. You want to use a self-explosion for your real damage. The minion explosion is going to be useful for showing you your AoE radius. and that will go up if I take off convergence to 3.7, and if you killed recently, it goes up to 4 meters, right? So this is like your mapping, radius, and this is set up for pinnacles, right? So this is like shaper DPS, and that's how I've got it configured here. So this is all, I think, very fair configuration for actual representation of our shaper DPS. Nothing on here is all that conditional. It's all stuff that you're going to have pretty much all the time. The only thing, maybe the scorched, like if you've blocked recently, the shield we're using is going to put in a little bit of scorch, but whatever. It's like, not that much. So that is the damage. Now, where are we getting all this minion life from? Well, a lot of it's coming just from, the minion itself is pretty good, but gem levels, right? We need to get a lot of gem levels. So naturally, we're starting with level 21 Raised Spectre gem. We're using it in a Dawnbreaker shield that has +1 to socketed gems. We're using a level 4 Empower, which goes to level 5. So we're getting 4 levels here, 1 level from the shield, 1 level from the gem itself. We're getting 3 levels from a replica Dragon Fang, and we're getting 2 levels from the hat. We're also getting 2 levels from our wand. So that's a lot. That brings it up to level 33. You can go higher, you can go lower. That's where I landed. This is a pretty reasonable amount of investment I put into this build. I think it can be done. I think this build is going to scale very well with investment. It's also going to perform quite well without it on a shoestring budget. I think it can be done. I haven't set up a POB for cheap version of it yet. But if there's enough interest, I can definitely do that, and I'll point out some suggestions on how to make it cheaper as we go along here. But another way to get some more damage out of this is this Magna Eclipsis, which is a really nice shield. It's going to give an inherent +2 to socketed gems, and that, of course, interacts nicely with Empower and the Raised Spectre. So you can get a lot more levels with the Eclipsis instead of the Dawnbreaker. I just like the defensive ability of the Dawnbreaker, so that's an easy swap you can make. Just remember that if you do make that swap, you no longer need this Ascendancy node, and you can go over and take Shaper of Storms for nice big shocks, right? This is going to be a lot more damage, this setup here. So if you're playing this and for whatever reason you're wanting more damage, you can try this. You'll be a little less tanky, but it's still going to be quite good. All right, where else are we getting minion life from? Well, I have had this jewel on live search since day 1 of the league, and I finally got it, and that's what kind of sparked me to start playing this build. Originally, I was doing it with Stone Golems and the Golem Mastery, which was also quite good, but this is just way better, way better, way better. So, in any case, what is this doing that's so good? Well, every one of these nodes is minions have increased maximum life. 80% is a lot, and being able to get this much minion life clustered in such a small space is very good, right? So ideally this would be a Caspiro instead of Cadiro, because this would be quite useful in negating the need for dexterity and strength, which is something this build will lack. Unironic using Mage Bud for the stats, but there's also big role on that and a big role on that. This is also helping a bit in reducing some requirements, but going to 0 and opening the build space with that, with the Caspiro, is something I really, really like to do. It makes everything else so much easier. But be that as it may, I don't own it, and I do own this one. So you can look for any of these jewels that have these, right? Does it have to be exactly this? No, it's expensive. They do exist. But if this catches on at all, they will not exist, right? So find other options for this. There's other good options that are going to be more defensive, more. You can get spell reservation. I think you can get mana reservation efficiency. I think you can get like 12% mana reservation efficiency of skills on these. I think you can get spell suppress on these. So there's like really good other options. The build's very fluid, and there's other ways to achieve what I've got here. And one of those tools is going to be right here, right? So this is, for me, I'm just using max damage, but there's other good options. You don't need it. In fact, I did take all of these points away. I took this jewel out, removed all of this, and just filled in those points elsewhere on the tree to like make up for the damage. And I think instead of doing like, you know, it was like 15 mil DPS after like 10 minutes of reconfiguring. So it's not even min-maxed at all in that direction, and I was still able to get like a very considerable amount of damage without this jewel. So don't look at this jewel and be like, oh my god, this is unplayable, I have to get this ridiculous jewel. You don't. But if you do, it's nice. Alright, so that's like the majority of our damage. Then we got some standard stuff. This is a really nice addition for damage over here. Spiritual Aid gives us a lot of extra damage. You know, this wheel right here gives us some more minion life. We can get some more up here as well. This first node is particularly good because it's 10% damage and life. We're getting, you know, it's pretty standard jewels here. I can actually probably take this Student of Decay off. I don't need that anymore. I was hurting for Chaos Res until I fixed my my flasks around a bit better, so yeah, I'll have something to do after I put this video out. But pretty basic stuff on the rest of the tree here. We're using Eldritch Battery to reserve all of our mana, and just use that otherwise basically useless shield for mana. And yeah, so that's pretty much our damage. Let's go over the defenses of the build really quick. So it's got 77% of physical taken as various elements. Most of it, I think it's 70% fire, and I think it's 7% lightning, right? So I'm getting 40 from the chest, 20 more from the Dawnbreaker, and that is both all physical damage. So that's DOTs as well as hits, right? So just with that alone, that 60% fizz taken as fire, that is a considerable amount of bleed that is also removed, right? So you don't really have to worry too much about bleed with this build if you don't have, if you haven't dealt with it in some other way. It's just not that impactful. Yeah, so 60 there, 70 more, 77 more from the hat, and then that's further improved by a little bit of armor we're getting from Determination, and you know, a jewel or a flask suffix, right? So even though it's not a ton of armor, it's only 15k about, because the majority of all so much of the fizz is being mitigated, the small hits that are left over are pretty well mitigated by this fizz reduction. We also have Arctic armor, so if we are stationary, that's going to be 20% further reduced fizz, and we've got bone armor from the yoinked Forbidden Flesh Flame, taking Bone Barrier, which also gives us 20% more minion life, so a really good yoink. You definitely want these. They're both offensive and defensive. Huge upgrade for the build. What else? We are spell suppressed. Getting spell suppression here, and I think that's the only spot. So yeah, just here on just the gloves on the gear. Of course, Mage Blood is helping out tremendously with this quartz flask. If a lot of you like the jewel, like the Timeless Jewel, if you're looking at this Mage Blood and saying, okay, I can't play this build because it's a Mage Blood build, well, first of all, get yourself a Mage Blood. This is, of course, the league of everybody having a Mage Blood, and you should be one of those people as well. But if you do not have one yet, that's totally fine. This Siegebreaker belt is remarkably good as a stand-in for Mage Blood, right? It gets some Chaos Riz, it gets some life. 20% of max life is Chaos damage per second. Cool. We are scaling a lot of DOT anyway, so it's extra, it's fun, it's pretty good. But you can do whatever you want there, right? So that suppression can be filled in elsewhere. You know, you're gonna have to figure that out, right? But like I said, lots of moving parts on the build. One thing I would suggest, getting 15% here, 15% here, and then we go over and we get the remainder from this wheel here. Because we're always phasing, I can choose that, and that gets us to exactly 100%. So if you're not 100%, let's say you're like 75, you're 80, whatever, around there, switch over to the suppressed damage is lucky, and then you're going to get close enough. It's very, very good. All right, but you want to be 100% if possible. If not, that'll do pretty well with the lucky if you're close enough. Element immunity is covered by a Storm Shroud with a avoid being shocked effect on the flask. Again, cheating with Mage Blood. There's other ways to get this. You can do it in a myriad ways, right? So not too hard to get element immune there. Curse immune, we're also getting off the cheatery of Mage Blood and a flask. This would be a difficult one to get without significant investment otherwise, but it's nice to have. It's not like end all be all. We're doing the Blood Notch tech because it's so good. So we've got Blood Notch and Immutable Force, reducing the worry of small hits. We're basically immune to small hits now. At the moment, the Blood Notch interaction is a little bugged. Any hit that would be able to freeze you and then crit hits, any hit that has the capacity to freeze and then crits you and stuns you, regardless of whether or not you are freeze immune, it will count as though you can't be frozen and stunned by the same hit, supposedly. So there's a bug now. It's if the hit could have frozen you, regardless of whether or not you're immune to freeze, and stuns you, it doesn't trigger your Blood Notch. Okay, so if you click on, I was wondering why am I dying to these blue altars, and I kept noticing Fizz is extra cold. I was like, this seems to be showing up a lot when I die, and it's because those monsters were hitting me with hits that theoretically could have frozen me, and were not triggering my Blood Notch, right? So the way to get around that until GGG fixes that is to take this wheel right here. There's still a lot of points. You might be tempted to shave these down for other reasons, but I had them anyway, so it wasn't too big a deal. But these 5 points here will get you to the Stun Mastery wheel, which allows you to mitigate the bug, because if you've been stunned recently, which is almost always, hits against you cannot be critical strikes. So therefore, they cannot have potentially frozen you, and this is solves that bug in a way that having reduced extra damage from critical strikes, even if it's 100%, you're still being crit. There's no extra damage being dealt, so it could still theoretically freeze, and it doesn't work, right? So you need to have immunity to crits, and that's, or not immunity, but they cannot be critical strikes, right? So it's its own thing that works. But as soon as they patch that bug out, this wheel is going to be gone. It can also help if you haven't hit your Blood Notch 1 frame checkpoint, which I think is like 961 or something like that. So if you don't know what your chance to or your stun recovery is, go over to defense. You check out where is it? Could have sworn it was over here. Oh yeah, right here. If that is a total of less than 961, I think, double check that number. You want to get up to that, because that's like the 1 frame recovery point. So if your immutable force is not great, this wheel will help shore up some of that. But that's kind of a corner case, whatever. We do have the crit reduction, so we're generally ignoring crits. I've got bleed immune off of this ring. Now, it doesn't exist anymore, right? So good luck finding that. You don't have to have it. It doesn't really matter. We already talked about how bleed is like mostly mitigated by the interaction from Dawnbreaker and Cloak of Flame with Fizz taken as fire anyway. So bleed, not a huge thing. This is kind of a vanity piece, right? We're immune to poison here. You can also get this Watcher's Eye to be giving you bleed immunity if you prefer. But what you really want is the reduced extra damage from critical strikes while affected by determination, and then you can get whatever else suits your fancy. But I got poison here, so I got poison immune there, bleed immune there, Corrupted Blood immune over here. Let's see, what else have we got going on? Let's look at the Pantheon. I like the Soul of Lunaris. It's great for general mapping, and just in general, it's quite good. If you know you're going to be doing other things, this Soul of Lunaris is great for bossing. Arakali is very good for damage over time mitigation, that sort of thing. If your chaos resistance sucks, this could be a good one. Once I get, if they come out and say, oh yeah, we fixed the blood notch shit, the first thing that's happening is this is going away, and then I'm going to put these points back into Leaf Shade, and that helps a lot with your damage over time, because that's one thing that can hurt the build a lot. We're only running with 2000 HP, and the damage over time is going to hurt us. Our regeneration is okay. You know, we get 750 life regen, that's pretty decent, but still, this is a very nice thing to have. So when I get 2 more points, either through levels or GGG fixing that bug, that will be back in there. But if you want more, this is a good way to do it. And then down for the minor ones, I've taken Grothical because it's just kind of more physical, you know, reductions, pretty self-explanatory. I don't need, Shikari for poison reduction. I don't need Ralakesh for bleed, but again, if you're not immune to bleed and corrupted blood, you take this and you basically forget about it and you'll be fine. So not to worry there. If you don't have the ring, that's fine. All right. I think that's just about it. We do want to have Convocation. I like to mix it up with, or I like to link it with Enhance. So Convocation and Frostblink are both getting the Enhance. Get a nice long Frostblink, and I want to be able to like Frostblink and then Convocate and then pop, right? So that is done a lot faster if we have a good cooldown on Convocation. It's 1.63 seconds right now. I'm using the Enhance, and I'm also using this Mastery here. So the shorter that is, the better it is. But it's not like a make or break point. Yeah, so do you need a Mage Blood for this? Not really. Like I said, this is quite good as a stand-in. I'm currently like over-capped heavily on my resistances, so this is providing me with way more than I actually need. The biggest thing is going to be that phasing and spell suppression. You're going to miss that without it, but it's still a fun build. You don't really need the phasing all that much, because honestly you just blow things up so quick, there's nothing to get in your way. I think that's about it. I hope you guys have fun with this build. I hope prices don't go through the roof on it, although they're everything, moderately priced. It's not a particularly cheap build, not an expensive build either. You can go nuts with it if you want. You can also, I think, do it on a pretty shoestring budget. You'll just have to solve a few other problems by more than just slapping a Mage Blood on it, right? Yeah, so if you guys have any questions about it, or if you like it, let me know in the comments, and have a great night.